Hi, I'm Reverend Andrew Bozeman, and this is On the Wings of Your Mind. Welcome back. This past Sunday was Father's Day. The day in which we honor those who have chosen to take on the role of father. The sometimes wild behavior of many of our young people these days has prompted conversations in the media as well as person to person about the influence of fathers or the lack of influence from fathers. The ideal father is the ultimate authority figure, guide, protector, spiritual leader, disciplinarian, nurturer. And while parents make up the foundation of a person's life, it is the father's role to set the standard. Some say that our relationship with God is influenced by our relationship with our Father. So how do we measure up? Well, first I'd like to share a talk that I delivered on Sunday regarding fathers, the Father's Day talk, and then we'll continue this discussion on the other side of that video. Today, June 18th, 2023 is Father's Day. It's also the birthday of one of my brothers, Edward. Happy birthday, Edward. So this is Father's Day, where the third Sunday in June is set aside to honor those who serve in the role of father for so many of us. There's some speculation that men created Father's Day because they were jealous of Mother's Day. After all, men have been in charge of things for centuries, so why shouldn't they have a day of their own? But actually, ceremonies to honor fatherhood is not a new activity. As early as the 5th century, the Coptic religion set aside a day to honor fatherhood. The Catholic Church set aside a day to honor fatherhood starting in the 15th century. So it's been celebrated in one form or another in countries around the world. But attempts to declare a day for fathers across all societal lines didn't take place until 1908 by a woman. Her name was Sonora Smart Dodd. Sonora grew up in Spokane, Washington toward the end of the 19th century. When she was 16, her mother died in childbirth with giving birth to her 6th child. And since Sonora was the only daughter, she helped her father raise her 5 brothers, including the new infant. She held her father in very high esteem as she witnessed all he went through to support and raise his family. And so she came up with the idea of Father's Day upon hearing a church sermon about the newly recognized Mother's Day, which officially began in 1908. She felt strongly that fatherhood needed a recognition. So she approached the Spokane Ministerial Alliance and proposed creating a similar celebration for fathers. She initially suggested her own father's birthday, which was June 5th, but the Alliance settled on the 3rd Sunday in June because it's easier to keep it locked into a Sunday rather than following a specific date. So that is how it got started. Unfortunately, however, there is no degree program for parenting. Mothers and fathers have to learn through trial and error. Of course, nowadays there are lots of books out there about how to be a parent, but that's only a recent development. And even with books to read on the subject, it's still a trial and error process because each and every one of us and each and every one of our children is different. There are all kinds of fathers and father figures and father symbols. Such countries as Germany and the Netherlands and Scandinavian countries refer to their country as fatherland. And depending on what part of America you're from, our country is referred to either as the fatherland or the motherland. Father figures include teachers, Boy Scout leaders, athletic coaches, ministers. Whoever fills the role is a father. Catholic priest, are called Father. In the Bible, God is called Father. Where do fathers fit into our lives? Well, let's look at Michael Jordan, former NBA basketball player. He was known as a player who delighted in intimidating his opponents, and he claimed there was no opposing basketball player that he ever feared. But he admits that there was one man that he did fear. His name was Dean Smith. And Dean Smith was the coach of the University of North Carolina basketball team. And Michael says of Coach Smith, I was totally afraid of Coach Smith because he was a big name in the state of North Carolina, and I was a kid from a small city. I never ever thought about calling him anything but Coach Smith. It was intimidating the way he controlled practices. I have never seen a practice controlled the way it was in North Carolina. He kept me humble, and he challenged me. Jordan went on to say that Coach Smith was one of the most influential persons in his life, not just because he taught him the fundamentals of basketball and how to become a champion, but he was also a father figure in his life. Psychologists tell us that fathers are critical to the development of a child. Ideally, fathers set boundaries, serve as examples of how to approach different aspects of our lives. As I recall, my father and his influence on my life, he showed me masculine strength, determination, while at the same time demonstrating compassion and understanding. I also remember him as a protector. When I had my first encounter with racism in 1955, I was 12 years old, skinny with incredibly big feet. My nickname was Foots, and black. And I found myself in a situation where I was surrounded by several angry white boys who looked like they were salivating at the thought of beating me to a bloody pulp. My father had dropped me off at a store to pick up something we needed to bring home after we had an outing together. Then he planned to drive around the block and pick me up when I came out of the store. As far as we were concerned, it was just another store. We didn't know it was a hostile white neighborhood. Before I knew it, I was surrounded by these boys who were emphatically letting me know that I did not belong in their neighborhood. And just when things looked hopelessly dangerous for me, I heard a deep male voice ask, "Is there a problem here?" It was my father. When he saw what was happening, he had parked the car and walked over to rescue and protect me. I remember I almost broke down and cried in relief when I saw him there. The boys claimed they just wanted to get to know me. You tell them, well, he won't be here long, so there's no need to get acquainted. So you can go about your business. Then he took me in his arm, or took me by the arm and led me back to his car as they stood and watched me get away from the lesson they were going to gladly teach me. Others in our neighborhood, other fathers saw him as a protector as well. I remember men coming to my house who would talk to him about situations they were in, and he would share his compassionate perspectives with them, give them advice. Of course, there were times when my mother felt that he was a little too compassionate, when he would lend money or let somebody use one of our bedrooms when they were in dire straits. But as I think about it now, I realize he was merely following spiritualist principle number 6. We believe that the highest morality is contained in the golden rule: do unto others as you would have them do unto you. I remember how my father taught me to face dirty jobs and not let them overwhelm me. He showed me that no matter how dirty or unpleasant a job might be, you had to complete it to the best of your ability and not skimp on excellence. Then when it was over, there was always soap and water, so you didn't have to live with it beyond that. I remember that it would amaze me when people I worked with in my adulthood or people who I supervised would always try to run away from hard work, or they would try to take shortcuts in tasks they had to complete. And it always amused me because they would eventually have to face the hard work. It didn't go anywhere. It was there waiting for them when they got back. And if they did an incomplete job, they would just have to do it over. When I discovered spiritualism, I was gratified to learn that my father had taught me spiritualist principle number 7. We affirm the moral responsibility of the individual, and that we make our own happiness or unhappiness as we obey or disobey nature's physical and spiritual laws. In my research on fathers and fatherhood, I found a short list of a few ways that infinite intelligence has designed fathers to have a unique influence on their families. The list starts: a father's strength can be powerful. A dad's words can be fueling and inspirational. Hugs from a dad can be deeply comforting. A dad's smiles can instill joy and confidence. Time with dad can be joy, can be fun and productive. A dad's physicality can be challenging. A dad's guidance can be life-changing and foundational. A father's correction can be life-saving and life-giving. And adventures with dad can be exciting and memorable. So fathers provide a male perspective for their sons and for their daughters. I have a female friend who's considerably younger than me, who treats me as a father figure. She calls me sometimes to ask for advice or to get the perspective of an older male. She was very close with her mother and models her life on what she learned from her mother. But when it comes from looking at things from a male's point of view, she gives me a call. We discuss issues of how to function in the corporate world, what's expected of her, and what moves she needs to make to survive. Why men sometimes behave the way they do in relationships, how to maintain her personal boundaries, and expanding her skills in understanding and getting along with people who hold differing views. Fathers fill a surprising vacuum in the consciousness of our society. I think we're hardwired to appreciate the presence of fathers and their role in our lives. Of course, there are efforts nowadays in the secular world to diminish the value of the male in our society, but I don't think the value of the father can be replaced. I'm reminded of the crowds who followed the life of a red-tailed hawk, who because of his pale coloring was affectionately called Pale Male in New York City. He made a home on one of the most expensive apartment buildings in New York City, directly across the street from Central Park. They tried to get rid of him, but people protested, and finally they had to relent and put his nest back on top of the building and let him remain. When he mated and produced offspring, the onlookers watched him closely and highly praised his parenting skills. He kept his children well-fed, and when it was time for them to take off on their own, he tried gently luring them out of the nest by flying by with a mouthful of food just out of their reach, so they would have to fly to get it. They were there a lot, expensive binoculars, scopes, and cameras. It was quite amazing the effect that he had on the people in New York City. I recall when I was in advertising, I produced a commercial for McDonald's in which a boy and his father spent the day together and ended up eating at a McDonald's restaurant. When the research department followed up to see if people saw it on TV and remembered it or responded to it, the scores came back at record-breaking highs. It seems there was a longing to see a father and his son get together in loving relationship. That was the case among both sexes, the way they responded, but especially among women. In my research for this talk, I was reading an article by a psychologist who was reporting on research findings about father and son relationships. He said, "I vividly remember one day when my 7-year-old son and I were driving in the car together. He told me that he no longer wanted to become like LeBron James. Instead, my son said he wanted to become like me. What an honor. A helpful reminder that he is watching and learning from me along the way. Researchers have studied various parenting styles and have come down in favor of a style that is known as authoritative parenting. This kind of father is authoritative, not an overbearing authoritarian, but a compassionate yet firm authority. This seems to provide the best combination of love and discipline. The authoritative father has clear boundaries, but is also very loving. Everyone knows who the boss is. There's also a connection between father and child, a consideration that respects and honors who the child is, while not compromising their disciplinary needs. This parenting style balances sensitivity and warmth with discipline and structure. Within an authoritative parenting style, a father's children are less likely to have emotional and behavioral issues. His children are more likely to do well socially, academically, relationally, and developmentally when he balances high levels of both sensitivity and limits. Boys and girls are different, and so the lessons they learn from their fathers are different. A dad's sensitivity early in the boy's life leads to fewer behavior issues later in the boy's life. Sons who have a good relationship with their father tend to handle stress more effectively. Playing with fathers, including roughhousing, helps son develop self-control, problem-solving skills, and self-regulation skills. So while a father or a father's figure relationship with boys takes place mostly in the overtly physical realm because of the way males function, the organization known as the Focus on Family has an interesting view relating to father's place in the daughter's life. They say the father's role in interacting with his daughter provides the closest real-life human example of the unseeable spiritual reality of how to relate with God or infinite intelligence. The father can be the best example of how God is strong and protective, loving and gentle, knowledgeable and trustworthy. That is to say, a dad can provide that very important, intimate reflection of a spiritual being in human form who is approachable and fun-living, loving to his daughter. How he interacts with his daughter will be the way she learns to interact with her higher consciousness. His best efforts will be incomplete and imperfect. That's to be expected. However, his routine human interactions with his daughter will provide her with an important spiritual roadmap of how to approach and interact with the fatherly aspects of infinite intelligence. You know, being a parent is a highly difficult endeavor. There are very few roadmaps. There's no such thing as normal. That's why we need to pay homage to those who take on those significant roles. Mother's Day, Father's Day are more than just days to buy cards or presents or go out to dinner. They are occasions to pause and reflect on the sacrifices that those who have taken on that parenting role in our lives have made to chart a pathway through life for those of us for whom they are responsible. It is to enhance us in building our lives spiritually, socially, and economically, and in giving us clarity of vision, strength of boundaries, and the ability to love. They are powerfully indispensable and wonderful to have around. So, the father fills a critical role in the lives of families and their children. If we take a look at the description of the father archetype, as defined by the psychotherapist Carl Jung, we get authority, protection, law, and discipline. Also, the father is associated with order, dominance, and productivity. In stories, the king often represents the father archetype. And I actually see that description as a somewhat cold-blooded view of the father role. There doesn't appear to be much room for love and compassion and nurturing, which are also important aspects of fatherhood, as long as they're kept in balance with the other aspects. Actually, being a father is a tightrope walk. If he's too protective, he can turn into a dictatorship. If the father is too hands-off, then his loved ones might not have the structure they need to grow, which can make them feel unsafe, abandoned, or uncared for. If he's too nurturing, then he's viewed as a substitute mother. It's a complex and challenging position that doesn't get a lot of credit for the amount of effort that goes into making it work properly. Maybe that's why a lot of males run away from it. It is scary. Totally scary. Let's talk about it on the other side. I have some messages to show you. Whether you're building wealth or anticipating a major financial transaction, you can benefit greatly by consulting with a personal, professional, licensed financial advisor. A personal, professional, licensed financial advisor who focuses on you, who understands your unique concerns, who relates to your special goals, who cares about your success. Afroeconomics is a strategic financial program designed for the advancement of Black wealth in America and abroad. It was created by J.B. Bryan, CEO of J.B. Bryan Financial Group, an independent registered investment advisory firm licensed in Virginia, Washington, D.C., New York, and Maryland. Being Black does not condemn you to a life of financial uncertainty. Afroeconomics can show you the way out and up. If this message has meaning and value for you, please click on the thumbs up button below. If you haven't already done so, please choose to subscribe. You can do so by clicking on the logo at the lower right-hand corner of this video. Remember, I would love to hear your thoughts, comments, and questions. Please use the chat box on the right side of the screen, or you can use the comments section below this video. The objective of this ministry is to empower you and your life. If our teaching is of value to you, then we invite your financial support. You can support this ministry by using the Cash App at $Andre Amron, or by going to our website at bozemandevelopment.com and clicking on the Please Donate link. Thank you for your support. So when I was in my 20s, I fathered two sons. They were beautiful, strong, and very, very smart. Unfortunately, I wasn't ready for them. I was still very confused about who I was, and eventually my marriage fell apart. So did my performance of my responsibility as a father. I went off in search of a career, and that was a mess. I was scattered, moving from job to job, trying to find the one that clicked. Sometimes earnings were so low that I couldn't afford to feed myself. So admittedly, I missed a lot of child support payments. Fortunately for my sons, my ex-wife remarried and moved the family to another state. They all moved to Iowa, which was where her second husband was his hometown. So they had a stable home life in a small rural community, and they were protected from the harsh life of living on the inner city. So they were very fortunate in that. I'm very glad that they got that experience as opposed to the other experience they would have gotten possibly from a single mother in the middle of chaotic Chicago. So there were occasional visits that I had with them when they came to Chicago where I lived, but mostly I was an absentee father. There was a recent movie, 2016 movie called The Accountant. The Accountant was very much focused on the influence of the lead character's father, lead character played by Ben Affleck. But at one point in the movie, a U.S. Treasury agent who was in pursuit of Ben Affleck had a gun pointed at his head, and he was asked the question, "Were you a good dad?" His response was interesting. He said, "Yes, I was a good dad. I screwed up many parts of my life, but at least I got that one right." I envied him that answer. At least I got that one right. I did eventually catch up with the child support under the supervision of the county sheriff. And by the time my sons reached their 20s, I had finally gotten to a point where my life was somewhat stable, and I tried to establish a relationship with them, a belated relationship, but still a relationship. I was only 50% successful. One of the two forgave me, and one of them did not. I now have a good relationship with my older son, the one who forgave me. And I kept trying to build a relationship with the younger one, but he wasn't much for it. I mean, he would talk to me on the phone, but the conversations were short and unsatisfactory. But try that I might, that chance that I might eventually make peace with him evaporated when he passed away in 2021. So that was gone. No more chances. You know, it can be shocking to discover how much you have to offer as a father to a child. Even if you don't believe that you have anything to offer, you have so much more to offer than you realize. I know in conversations with my son recently, over the past few years, I have often been amazed at the moments and events that were significant to him, the moments and events that we were together that really meant something to him. And I had judged them differently. I didn't think they were that impressive for him. I felt like I let him down. There were moments when he visited me and I was in a state of total confusion. But what was important to him was that I was spending time with him. I didn't think he would be impressed because I didn't have any money, but he was impressed that I was spending time with him, that I was listening to him, that I was finding out about him and who he was. There were times when I shared my perspectives on the various aspects of life that I had discovered, even while I was in the middle of my confusion. Those moments, those words, to him were words of wisdom. I just thought that I was talking. You know, it took a long time for me to be brave enough to build a relationship with my son. But I am now eternally grateful for every moment of that relationship between him and me. Even when we're shouting at each other, it's like, it's wonderful that we have this. It's wonderful. So, know this. Filling the role of father is a very powerful position, and it is indeed an honor. The responsibility of that honored position can be intimidating. Intimidating. And there is no guidebook that tells you how to do it. But when it comes to that job of being a father, it's very important to be aware of this. It doesn't matter that you don't have a lot of money.
It doesn't matter that you don't have all the answers. It doesn't even matter that you're not a paragon of virtue. All that really matters to that child is that you are the father and that you are paying attention. You're paying attention to what that child has to say. You're paying attention to what that child thinks. You're paying attention to what that child believes. And that you're willing to spend time with that child. And that you care about that child. That's what's important. That's what's important. Because, so even though you may believe that you don't have much to offer, it's a whole lot more than enough in the eyes of the child when you give it to them. A whole lot more. So don't deny them that gift of you. No, don't deny them. Give it to them. It is so critical that fathers be fathers, that fathers give of their time to their children. It's so important. You don't realize how important it really is. It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. Let's close with prayer. Thank you, Mother, Father, God. Thank you, Infinite Intelligence, for bringing all of us together in this life so that we may become spiritual warriors and join in the work we have come here to do. Thank you, Infinite Intelligence, for bringing us into this space of awareness and a deeper understanding of ourselves and our relationship to life and infinite intelligence. Thank you for showing us who we really are. We open our minds and hearts to the truth of our being. We are the children of God. We are individualized expressions of infinite intelligence. And because we are part of the greater whole, we're beginning to understand our value to the continuity of life on this planet. As we become channels of your power, infinite intelligence, we can feel your presence within ourselves and within our lives more and more. We know that as we feel your presence within our lives every day, we will rise, because we are no longer cut off from you by being immersed in the darkness of fear, anger, and the pain of unforgiveness. So we are now restoring our connection through the grace of forgiveness, knowing that as we learn to forgive ourselves for the pain we have caused to ourselves, and as we learn to forgive those who have inflicted pain upon us, our connections will grow stronger, and our lives will grow happier and healthier and more prosperous. And for this, we are truly grateful. As above, so below. As within, so without. And so it is. Amen. So thank you very much for watching. Remember, being a father and filling the role of father is a truly an honored position. Very powerful position. You have no idea how powerful you really are in the eyes of that child. It's amazing. Absolutely amazing. So I look forward to seeing you next week. Have a great week. Remember, I am Reverend Andrew Bozeman, and this is On the Wings of Your Mind. If this message has meaning and value for you, please click on the thumbs up button below. If you haven't already done so, please choose to subscribe. You can do so by clicking on the logo at the lower right-hand corner of this video. Remember, I would love to hear your thoughts, comments, and questions. Please use the chat box on the right side of the screen, or you can use the comments section below this video. The objective of this ministry is to empower you and your life. If our teaching is of value to you, then we invite your financial support. You can support this ministry by using the Cash app at $Andre Amron, or by going to our website at bozemandevelopment.com and clicking on the Please Donate link. Thank you for your support.